All right, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be doing notes number 2, angle relationships. This is for week 14. We've done these problems before, so we're just kind of reviewing some of the basic angle relationships that are out there. So, for instance, when you're looking at number 1, look at these two angles. First of all, they're using this straight line. Notice how it goes straight through. And they're using that straight line, also goes straight through. And so in this case, the relationship between these two angles, hopefully you remember from your past, these are called vertical angles. Vertical angles are made by the same two straight lines. So vertical angles. And then the idea is when you have vertical angles, the rule is these two angles have to have the same measurement. And so the angle is equal to the other angle. Now in geometry we would say they're congruent to each other, same concept. And so if they're equal to each other, well then look, just pick one of your angles, let's say the 73. So there's 73, bring down the equal sign and then write down your other angle, no matter how weird it looks. So 3x plus 1. So now we're just going to solve it. So again, that's why you have to make sure you're writing these problems down when you're working them out on CUDA. Don't simply just do them in your head. You definitely want to work these out. So we'll subtract our 1 here from both sides. Remember, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So now we're at 72 is equal to 3x. Now to get rid of the 3, don't forget, since they're multiplying, we do the opposite. So we divide everything by 3. So that gets rid of the 3 here. The x is finally by itself. And then, like I said, use a calculator, whichever one you have. If you have the decimals one, even better. 72 divided by 3 is 24. And there's our answer. So again, when they're made by the same two straight lines, they're called vertical angles. Now, when we look at this one, the common mistake is people think, oh, these are vertical angles too. But look at the lines. Yes, we have one straight line. There it is. It goes on forever in both directions. But then when you look at this one, this is not a line. This is a ray. It only goes in one direction. So if you notice, they're using the same two, but not like this at all. When they're side by side, and if I were to mark my angles, look at this. If I mark that angle and I mark this one, this is that one special mark that we've made in the past that shows that these two are supplementary. So these are supplementary angles. And the one thing you have to remember about supplementary angles is when they connect with a straight line, just like this yellow one right here, it means that angle plus angle is equal to 180. And so you just have to make sure this is the only time we ever use 180. Look at the difference between these two. So now let's just plug in our angles. So the first angle I see is 137. Here's the plus sign. The second angle I see is x plus 9, and you could do either one first, it doesn't matter. Is equal to 180. Now, just like before, we should be combining first. So I'm going to combine these two together. Now they're both positive, so I'm just going to add them up. So here's the x that was here. 137 plus 9, let me throw that into the calculator here, is 146 is equal to 180. And now we're down to our last step, which is if I subtract this 146 from both sides, remember, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side of the equals. And if you need to have that line that goes right down the middle of the equals so that you see what goes where. So the x is still here. Here's the equal sign. And 180 take away 146, according to the calculator, is 34. And there's our answer. Okay. So again, you just have to make sure you recognize, oh, if they're vertical, make them equal to each other. If they're supplementary, that means they make 180. Well, then add them up and make it equal to 180. Just make sure you keep that equal sign where it belongs. And then, of course, we have these two down here. So we really have just one more. But for this third one. Now, in this third one, you should notice this right here. We've already known from our class and from our past that this is a 90-degree angle. So that means that if I put this angle and this angle, when I mark them and they're right next to each other and they're making that 90, these are the ones that we call complementary angles. And so it's very similar to the one we did up there for supplementary. The only catch is this one is angle plus angle, so it's two angles that add up, but to 90. And this one's a little more obvious because you're going to have to see that little square somewhere in the problem. But look, now I'm just going to bring everything in the where it belongs. Look at that. There's my 90. There's my plus. The first angle I see is, let's say, 3x plus 10. Again, it doesn't matter which one you write first. The second angle in here is 47. So there's the 47. Now I'm just going to combine these two. That should be the first thing I do. So 3x and 10 plus 47 is just 57 is equal to 90. As usual, don't forget, here's my equal sign. Notice how we keep the equal sign where it belongs there. Now I'm going to actually move something over to the other side. So I'm going to take away that 57 from both sides. And so I'm left with 3x. See, the equal sign always stays there. 90, take away that 57 is 33. And then my last step, as usual, divide by that 3. And we get our answer that x is just 11. So again, make sure that you are writing these problems down when you're working them out on CUDA. They're not meant to be difficult, but you definitely don't want to do these in your head. You want to make sure you're writing them out. All right, and so for this last one, these are the three that we're going to be covering: vertical, supplementary, and complementary. So now, looking at this one carefully, this is just kind of an extra bonus question there for you. But when you look at it, see, when I mark it, there's this angle, and then there's this angle right here. Notice how these, when I mark them, they actually end up touching, making contact with each other. That does not happen with vertical. Look at that. When you mark them, vertical angles never make contact. Look at these little curves, no contact. But here, when I marked my angles, they did make contact. So we're dealing with something that's supplementary again in this problem. And so as soon as you know that this is supplementary, then set it up. Angle plus angle is equal to 180. And so my first angle I see is x plus 2. The second angle I see is 119. And it's going to equal 180. All right, just like before, look, we're going to combine like terms here first. So then we have x plus 2 plus 119 is 121 is equal to 180. As usual, subtract the 121 in this case. And luckily with this problem, since the x is already by itself, then we can simply just say, well, x is equal to, now what's 180 take away 121? Well, that's 59. And so we get our result. So again, we're just reviewing. We're reviewing the three concepts: vertical, supplementary, and complementary. These are the four that we just covered right now. Keep in mind when you're doing your work on CUDA, please make sure you're writing down the problems, especially for this section. And have your notes open. That way you can remember, oh, when are they equal? When do I make them equal to 180? And when do I make them equal to 90? All right, ladies and gentlemen, you have a good day. Stay safe.